I lost my job because I refused to sign a lie. A few weeks later, my wife left, and my 10-year-old daughter and I packed everything we had left into a rented truck. As I locked the door of the only home she'd ever known, I honestly believed my life had reached its lowest point. Then a black Rolls Royce pulled up to the curb, and a woman I'd never met stepped out, looked me in the eye, and said, "Mr. Whitaker, we've been trying to find you for 11 days. At that moment, I had no idea that one quiet decision I'd made months earlier, when nobody was watching, was about to change the course of my life forever. By the time Adam Whitaker carried the last box through the front door, the house no longer sounded like home. Every room answered his footsteps with a hollow echo. Pale rectangles marked the walls where family pictures had hung. The carpet still held dents from the couch he had sold 2 weeks earlier. Outside, a rented moving truck idled at the curb, holding everything Adam and his daughter still owned. Sadie sat on the front step with her backpack hugged against her chest. At 10, she understood they were moving somewhere smaller, but she kept glancing at her upstairs window as if her bedroom might ask her to stay. "You have your sketchbook?" Adam asked. She nodded. "Blue sweater?" Another nod. He knew she had packed both. He simply needed something ordinary to say. 3 months earlier, Adam had still had a steady job, a wife, and a porch light waiting when he came home before sunrise. Now Lauren was living with her sister. The landlord had sold the house, and Adam had $48 left after paying the deposit on an apartment above an auto repair shop. He checked each room once more. No forgotten charger. No loose photograph. No reason to delay. Near the entryway, something blue showed beneath the baseboard heater. Adam pulled out a small piece of cardstock, creased at one corner. Home was written across it in Sadie's uneven block letters, with a tiny arrow beneath the word. "Thought we lost that," Sadie said. "So did I." He slipped it into his shirt pocket, stepped outside, and pulled the door shut. The landlord had told him to leave the key beneath the mat. Adam crouched and lifted one corner of the faded rubber. A car slowed behind him. Not Lauren's sedan. Not one of the neighbors. A black Rolls Royce glided to the curb, polished dark enough to reflect the empty windows. Sadie stood. Adam stayed frozen with the key in his hand. The driver opened the rear door. Monica Bellamy stepped out in a gray coat despite the heat. Adam knew her face from pharmacy signs, hospital fundraisers, and local business reports. She looked past the empty house and directly at him. "Mr. Whitaker," she said, "we've been looking for you for 11 days. Adam's fingers closed around the blue card in his pocket. Before he could answer, the door on the other side of the Rolls-Royce opened. The man who stepped out was the same man Adam had once risked his entire career to protect. Darnell Brooks looked older than Adam remembered. More gray showed around his temples, and the lines beneath his eyes had settled deeper, but the quiet dignity that had always marked him was still there. For a long second, neither of them spoke. Then Darnell smiled. "You were right," he said softly. "I told you I'd keep it." Adam had no idea what he meant. The words stirred something in the back of his mind, but before he could ask, the summer air seemed to blur into another season. 3 months earlier. Most people never thought about refrigerated trucks unless one blocked traffic. Adam Whitaker thought about them every night. By 9 o'clock, while restaurants filled with dinner customers and families settled onto living room couches, he walked into Blue River Cold Transit, wearing steel-toe boots, carrying a travel mug that rarely stayed hot past midnight. His office wasn't really an office. It was a dim operations room lit by 6 oversized monitors stretching across one wall. Colored lines crossed digital maps of Kentucky, Indiana, and Ohio. Tiny truck icons crept along highways while numbers flickered beside them. Temperature readings, delivery windows, fuel levels, weather alerts. Some supervisors trusted software. Adam trusted patterns. He could tell a cooling unit was beginning to fail before an alarm sounded. He knew which interstate exits flooded after heavy rain and which warehouse generators took exactly 4 minutes to restart after losing power. The younger dispatchers joked that Adam could hear machines thinking. He usually laughed with them. The truth was simpler. He paid attention. "Morning, boss," one dispatcher called as she gathered her purse before heading home. "Quiet night?" "So far," Adam answered. Everyone in the room knew those 2 words usually guaranteed the opposite. Outside work, life followed a different map. Every Saturday morning, Sadie spread an old paper road atlas across their kitchen table. It had belonged to Adam's father, its corners softened by years of folding and unfolding. One camping trip, their phones had lost service somewhere outside Mammoth Cave National Park. While everyone else waited for a signal, Adam found the right county road with nothing more than the faded atlas and a pencil. Sadie had watched him with wide eyes. The next day, she cut a rectangle from blue construction paper, wrote home across it in oversized letters, drew a crooked little arrow underneath, and clipped it onto Louisville with a paper clip. "So you'll always know where we're going," she'd said. Adam never corrected her. He simply slipped the blue card into the notebook he carried every shift. Whenever work pulled him in 10 different directions, he would see that little card before closing the notebook again. It reminded him that every route was supposed to end somewhere. Near dawn, the monitors reflected across the operations room windows like 6 floating televisions. Truck 118 rolled through Lexington. Truck 204 crossed into Indiana. Truck 317 approached Bowling Green. Everything looked exactly as it should. Then one tiny number caught Adam's eye. He frowned. Another, then another. 3 different trucks, 3 different highways, 3 identical temperature curves. Perfectly identical. Adam leaned closer to the screen. Machines could fail. Drivers could make mistakes. But 3 separate refrigeration systems could not produce the exact same decimal pattern at the exact same time. Someone else might have called it coincidence. Adam reached for his headset instead. Something wasn't right. "Truck 118. This is dispatch. Mark, do you copy?" Static crackled for a moment before a tired voice answered. "Go ahead, Adam. Read the temperature on your independent recorder." A pause. 38.9. Adam looked back at the screen. The system showed 36.2. He circled the number with his cursor. "Check it again." Another pause. Still 38.9. Adam thanked him and switched channels. Truck 204. "Elena, I need your backup recorder." Elena Marquez answered almost immediately. "I've got 35.7. The computer displayed 36.2. Exactly the same number as truck 118. Adam's stomach tightened. 2 trucks, 2 different states, 2 different refrigeration units, 1 identical temperature curve. He called the 3rd driver. "Darnell, I need your manual reading." The older driver's voice carried its usual calm. 36.1. Adam compared it with the screen. Again, 36.2. Not close. Identical. He leaned back slowly. A software glitch might miss a reading. A sensor could fail. But 3 different cooling systems could not drift into the same perfect pattern unless something else had replaced the missing data. He opened the event log. For 1 hour and 53 minutes, every detailed temperature entry had vanished. In their place sat smooth, evenly spaced numbers that looked almost too perfect. The software hadn't recorded the journey. It had recreated it. Adam stood so quickly, his chair rolled into the wall. He hurried across the operations room toward the maintenance terminal, where raw equipment reports were stored. The backup files confirmed what his instincts already knew. Truck 118 had briefly climbed above the safe storage limit. Truck 204 had lost cooling while waiting at a transfer yard outside Evansville. Truck 317 had remained stable the entire night. 3 completely different stories. 1 perfectly polished report. He closed his eyes. If those shipments left distribution centers in the morning, hospitals would receive medication that might no longer perform the way doctors expected. No one looking at the official records would ever know. Adam picked up the phone again. "Hold truck 118. The dispatcher looked up. "What?" "Hold truck 2042. They're scheduled for first delivery." "I know." "We'll miss hospital windows." "I know." The young dispatcher hesitated. "Shouldn't we call regional first?" Adam looked at the monitor one last time. The green status lights still declared every shipment safe. The computers believed everything was normal. Adam didn't. "We're holding them," he said quietly. "I'll take responsibility." Outside, dawn painted the warehouse yard in pale orange light. Drivers climbed out of their cabs, confused, as supervisors began stopping trailers that had arrived on schedule. Inside the control room, phones started ringing one after another. Someone upstairs had noticed. Less than 20 minutes later, Adam's desk phone rang once. The caller ID showed only one word: regional. Adam picked up before the second ring. "This is Adam." "Mr. Whitaker," the voice said, "Curtis Langford would like to see you upstairs. Immediately." The line went dead. The walk from the operations room to the regional offices took less than 2 minutes, but it felt much longer that morning. Downstairs smelled of diesel fuel, coffee, and cardboard. Upstairs smelled like polished wood and fresh paint. Curtis Langford's office overlooked the loading yard through a wall of glass. From there, the trailers looked small and orderly, as if nothing unusual had happened. Curtis didn't ask Adam to sit. A woman from the company's legal department already occupied one chair with a laptop open beside her. A folder rested neatly on the conference table. "I understand you stopped 2 shipments," Curtis began. "I did, without authorization." "I had authorization from the temperature logs." Curtis folded his hands. "The official logs show everything remained within acceptable limits." Adam slid printed copies of the independent recorder readings across the table. "These don't." Neither Curtis nor the attorney touched the papers. Curtis opened the folder instead. "We've reviewed the situation. Maintenance determined the issue was caused by improper trailer procedures." Adam frowned. "Maintenance hasn't even inspected those units yet." "They will." "They haven't?" Curtis calmly turned one page around. At the bottom waited 2 names: Darnell Brooks, Elena Marcus. According to the report, both drivers had failed to secure their refrigeration systems during scheduled stops. The document concluded that human error, not equipment or software, had caused the temperature deviations. Adam looked up slowly. "That's false." "It's the conclusion our preliminary review supports." "No," Adam said. "It's the conclusion someone needs." The attorney finally spoke. "Mr. Whitaker, if these findings are confirmed, Blue River can resolve this internally." "And if they aren't?" Curtis leaned forward. "Our largest distribution contract is up for renewal next month." Adam didn't answer. "We're trusted to move medication safely," Curtis continued. "Hospitals don't want uncertainty. Neither do our partners." "You mean Bellamy?" Curtis didn't deny it. "If word gets out that our monitoring system may have failed, people panic before they know the facts." Adam tapped the report. "These aren't facts." "They will be once they're signed." Silence settled over the room. Curtis's voice softened. "You've worked here a long time, Adam." "I have." "You've got a family." Adam thought of Lauren, of Sadie, of the bills waiting on the kitchen counter. "I know your mother was sick," Curtis said quietly. "I know money's tight. Don't make a temporary problem into a permanent one." The attorney slid a pen across the table. "Sign the report, acknowledge the findings, and we'll move forward." Adam opened his notebook instead. The blue home card peeked from between 2 pages. Sadie had drawn the little arrow slightly crooked because she'd been laughing while she colored it. For one strange moment, that tiny piece of paper mattered more than everything inside Curtis's office. If he signed, 2 innocent drivers would carry the blame. If he refused, he had no idea what would happen next. Adam pushed the report back across the table. I won't put my name on something I know isn't true. He pulled out a blank incident form instead. Carefully, line by line, he documented the missing data, the independent recorder readings, and the decision to hold the shipments. At the bottom, he signed only one name: Adam Whitaker. Curtis closed the folder without another word. You understand what this means? Adam met his eyes. It means the report finally has one honest signature. 3 days later, he carried a small cardboard box containing a coffee mug, family pictures, and his notebook with the blue home card tucked safely inside. The security badge hanging around his neck no longer opened the front door. He stood in the parking lot for a long moment before unclipping it. The plastic card had been part of his routine for nearly 9 years. Now, it was nothing more than a piece of laminated waste. He dropped it into the box and drove home. Lauren was already there. She had left work early after reading the short text Adam finally sent. We need to talk. The grocery bags on the kitchen counter were still unpacked when he walked through the door. Sadie was upstairs finishing homework, unaware that the quiet downstairs felt different than usual. Lauren looked at the cardboard box before she looked at him. They fired you. Adam nodded. For what? He hesitated. That pause lasted only a few seconds. It was enough. You knew this might happen, she said. I hoped it wouldn't. You knew. He set the box on the table and slowly explained what had happened with the shipments, the false report, and the signatures they wanted from him. Lauren listened without interrupting. When he finished, she took a slow breath. I'm not angry because you told the truth. I know. No, she said quietly. I don't think you do. She walked into the bedroom and returned carrying a folder. Inside were credit card statements, medical bills, a bank statement. The hospital where your mom stayed called again yesterday. Adam looked down. I was handling it. Lauren almost smiled. It wasn't a happy smile. You always say that. I didn't want you worrying. So instead, you wanted me surprised? Her voice never became loud. That somehow hurt more. You used our emergency savings. I was replacing it with overtime. You never told me. I didn't want to put more on your shoulders. Lauren stared at him for several seconds. Adam, do you know what it feels like to be married to someone who keeps trying to protect you from your own life? He couldn't answer. She continued. You decided about the money without me. She pointed toward the box. You decided about risking your job without me. Then she looked toward the stairs where Sadie was humming softly in her room. And now our daughter is upstairs while we're trying to figure out whether we can still afford this house. Adam rubbed both hands across his face. I thought I could fix everything. I know you did. Lauren's eyes filled, but she refused to let the tears fall. That's the problem. Silence settled between them. The refrigerator hummed. A dog barked somewhere outside. The groceries remained exactly where Adam had placed them. After several minutes, Lauren spoke again. I wish you had trusted me enough to struggle beside you. 3 weeks later, she packed 2 suitcases. She wasn't leaving because Adam had defended innocent drivers. She was leaving because every crisis reached her only after it had already become impossible to share. Sadie hugged both parents before Lauren drove away. That evening, the house felt too quiet. While Adam washed the dinner dishes, Sadie stood beside him, drying plates with a towel that was much too large for her hands. Finally, she asked the question he had been dreading. Dad, he turned, did you lose your job because you told the truth? Adam rested the plate in the drying rack. Yes. Sadie looked at him carefully. Then, was telling the truth still the right thing? Adam realized that whatever answer he gave would stay with his daughter long after both of them forgot this kitchen. He took a slow breath before speaking. Yes, he said. Telling the truth was still the right thing. Sadie studied his face. Then why did you lose your job? Because sometimes doing the right thing costs you first, Adam wanted to say. Instead, he answered in a way a 10-year-old could carry. Because not everyone wants to hear the truth the first time. She nodded slowly. But the truth doesn't change. No, Adam said with a faint smile. It doesn't. That night, after Sadie fell asleep, Adam opened his laptop at the kitchen table. One application, then another, then another. Warehouse coordinator, transportation supervisor, operations manager, distribution planner. Every position matched skills he had spent nearly a decade building. Every resume ended the same way. Blue River Cold Transit. For a few days, hope still felt reasonable. The first rejection arrived by email. Another came the following afternoon. Some companies never replied at all. One recruiter finally agreed to a phone interview. Everything went smoothly until she paused over one line in his employment record. I see there was a compliance dispute at your previous company. Adam stared through the apartment window. There was a disagreement over a safety report. I understand. Her voice became careful. We're moving forward with another candidate. The call lasted less than 8 minutes. After that, Adam stopped counting how many applications disappeared into silence. Money left faster than it arrived. The mortgage wasn't his problem anymore. Rent was, electricity was, groceries were. The landlord knocked one Saturday afternoon carrying an envelope. I wanted to tell you in person. Adam already knew from the man's expression. I'm selling the property. You've been a good tenant. I know. I can give you 60 days. Adam thanked him, even though gratitude wasn't what he felt. That evening, he walked through every room measuring furniture against the smaller apartment he had found above a neighborhood auto repair shop. The dining table wouldn't fit. Neither would the sofa. He listed both online. A retired couple bought the table. A college student hauled away the couch. The living room looked strangely larger afterward. Sadie wandered into the empty space. It echoes. It does. Will our new place feel like home? Adam reached into his notebook and touched the little blue home card without taking it out. We'll make it home. He hoped she believed him. He wasn't sure he believed himself. A trucking company in Lexington called the following week. The pay was better than Blue River. Health insurance started immediately. There was only one catch: alternating overnight shifts, mandatory travel, some weeks away from home for 4 or 5 days. The hiring manager sounded surprised when Adam declined. You've been looking for work. I have. Then why turn this down? Adam looked across the room. Sadie was asleep on the couch after finishing a school project, one sneaker still dangling from her foot. Because my daughter already lost enough. When he hung up, the apartment felt impossibly quiet. The decision had cost him another chance to steady his finances. Yet somehow, it also felt like the first choice he had made without hiding behind work. Monday afternoon, Sadie came through the front door holding a bright yellow flyer. Dad? He looked up from another unfinished job application. My school is collecting food for Riverbend Family Pantry. She smiled hopefully. They need volunteers this weekend. Adam glanced at the stack of unpaid bills on the table, then back at his daughter. He had been wondering for weeks what he still had left to give anyone. Maybe he was about to find out. Saturday morning arrived with low gray clouds hanging over Louisville. A steady rain had already soaked the sidewalks by the time Adam and Sadie carried boxes of canned food into Riverbend Family Pantry. The building had once been an old neighborhood grocery store. The faded sign above the entrance was gone, but families still lined up outside before the doors opened. Inside, volunteers hurried between shelves stacked with cereal, soup, diapers, and bottled water. The atmosphere felt less like charity and more like controlled urgency. A woman in her 60s with silver curls tucked beneath a baseball cap walked briskly toward them. "You must be Adam," she said. "I'm Gloria Jenkins." She shook his hand before turning to Sadie. "And you must be my newest volunteer." Sadie smiled proudly. Gloria didn't have time for small talk. "We've got a problem." She led them toward a folding table covered with paper maps, delivery sheets, and half-empty coffee cups. "Our transportation company canceled every weekend route." She pointed through the rain-streaked window. "2 county roads are underwater," another volunteer added quietly. "Nearly 80 families are waiting." Gloria rubbed her forehead. "We've got insulin that has to stay cold, milk for toddlers, and groceries for seniors who can't drive." Someone suggested waiting until Monday. Gloria shook her head. "They'll run out before Monday." Adam studied the paperwork. The addresses weren't organized by neighborhood. Some deliveries crossed the same streets 3 different times. Drivers would waste hours doubling back. "May I?" he asked. Gloria slid the papers toward him without hesitation. Adam unfolded an old county road map from his backpack. Sadie immediately recognized it. "The camping map." He smiled. "The same one." Within minutes, he began grouping addresses by distance instead of zip code. "This church can cover these apartments." He drew a circle. "1 pickup truck handles these farms before the creek floods." Another line. "This retirement complex needs to be first because of refrigerated medication." Volunteers gathered around the table. Nobody interrupted. Adam wasn't giving orders. He was solving a puzzle. The room gradually became quieter as confusion turned into purpose. Sadie grabbed colored markers without anyone asking. She highlighted each route in a different color, while Adam wrote departure times beside them. Gloria watched the map fill with organized lines. "I've been trying to fix this since 6 this morning." Adam shrugged. "I used to move medicine every night." By early afternoon, the first volunteer vehicles rolled out. Rain hammered their windshields, but each driver carried a route that finally made sense. Hours later, the last truck returned just before county officials closed the eastern bridge. Every family had received food. Every cooler reached its destination. No refrigerated medication had been left behind. Gloria opened a small cash box. "You saved this weekend." She counted several bills. "We don't have much, but I'd like you to take this." Adam gently pushed her hand back. "Use it for formula." She frowned. "You could probably use the money." "So could those parents." Gloria looked at him for a long moment before quietly returning the bills to the box. As volunteers unloaded the final coolers, Adam lifted one insulated container onto a workbench. Something caught his eye. A small electronic temperature recorder was attached to the inside wall. The manufacturer label looked strangely familiar. He leaned closer. Then his expression changed. The model number matched the same monitoring equipment Blue River had used. Exactly. Adam turned the recorder over in his hands. The manufacturer label was identical. Even the firmware series looked familiar. "What is it?" Gloria asked. He hesitated. "Nothing dangerous." At least he hoped it wasn't. "It's equipment I used to work with." He took a picture of the label with his phone before carefully fastening the recorder back in place. Something about it refused to leave his mind. That evening, after Sadie had fallen asleep on the sofa during the drive home, Adam opened the cardboard box that still held everything from his old office. Beneath family photos and his coffee mug lay the notebook he had carried every night at Blue River. The blue home card slipped onto the table as he opened it. Folded inside were copies of the handwritten notes he had made the morning the shipments were stopped. Timestamps, truck numbers, temperature readings. He compared them with the photograph he had taken at Riverbend. The equipment model matched, not just the brand, the exact series. Adam leaned back in his chair. If Riverbend's donated medication was using the same monitoring hardware, there was a chance the problem he'd uncovered had never been limited to one shift. His phone buzzed. "Darnell," Adam answered immediately. "You doing all right?" Darnell asked. "I'm getting there." There was a pause. I kept it. Adam remembered those words outside the Rolls Royce. Kept what? The independent recorder. Adam sat upright. "I never turned it in." "You still have it?" "They asked for every piece of equipment after you left." "And?" "I remembered what you told me. Never throw away evidence until someone explains the numbers." Darnell let out a slow breath. I figured if they wanted it that badly, maybe somebody needed it to disappear. Adam stared at the notebook in front of him. "You think I was right?" "I think you trusted facts more than titles." The room fell quiet. Outside, rain tapped softly against the apartment window. "I've still got every reading from that night," Darnell continued. "They're yours if you need them." The next morning, Adam drove to meet him in a grocery store parking lot halfway between Louisville and Elizabethtown. Darnell climbed out of his pickup carrying a small weathered case. Inside sat the handheld recorder. The screen still worked. Every temperature log remained intact. Adam scrolled through the data. Nothing matched the official report Blue River had produced. Not one entry. "You saved all this," Adam whispered. Darnell shrugged. "You saved my job before they took yours." Adam closed the case carefully. On the drive home, he made one more stop. At the Kentucky Board of Pharmacy's Public Reporting Office, he submitted copies of his original incident report, photographs of the matching equipment, and the recorder's preserved data. He wasn't accusing anyone. He simply asked that someone compare the records before more medication traveled under numbers that might not be real. When he walked back outside, he felt strangely lighter. He still had no job. He still had bills he couldn't pay. But for the first time since leaving Blue River, the truth was no longer sitting only in his living room. Someone else had it now. 2 days later, Gloria called. "I thought you should know something." "What happened?" "I mentioned your name during a meeting with Bellamy Family Pharmacies." Adam frowned. "Why?" "They wanted to know who redesigned our emergency delivery routes." "I hope you told them it was all the volunteers." "I told them that." She smiled through the phone. "And then I told them who made it possible." Before Adam could ask another question, an unfamiliar envelope appeared in his mailbox later that afternoon. The return address read, Blue River Cold Transit, Corporate Legal Department. Adam carried the envelope inside before opening it. The letter was only 2 pages long. It informed him that distributing company documents, discussing internal operations with outside organizations, or releasing proprietary information could expose him to legal action. It advised him to preserve all company property and refrain from making further statements regarding Blue River's transportation systems. There was no accusation, no lawsuit, just enough carefully chosen words to make an unemployed father think twice before speaking again. Adam folded the letter and set it on the kitchen table. For several minutes, he simply stared at it. Sadie walked in, carrying 2 empty moving boxes. "What is it?" "Just paperwork." She picked up the envelope before he could stop her. "If you didn't do anything wrong..." She looked back at him. "Why are they trying to scare you?" Adam smiled sadly. "That's a pretty good question." He almost tore the letter in half. Instead, he slid it into the same notebook that held the blue home card. If the truth mattered, every piece of paper mattered too. The following week passed inside a blur of cardboard boxes and packing tape. One by one, the rooms emptied. The bookshelf disappeared. The dining chairs were collected. Even the old coffee table found another home. Every object that left made the house feel less familiar. Lauren arrived on moving day just after breakfast. She wore jeans and a faded Louisville Cardinals sweatshirt instead of office clothes. Neither of them mentioned how strange it felt to stand inside the house they had once imagined growing old in. "I'll help with the kitchen," she said quietly. Adam nodded. Most of the conversation stayed practical. Which box held Sadie's school supplies? Which one contained winter clothes? Who would take the bicycle? Late that afternoon, Lauren walked into the nearly empty living room and stopped. Only then did she truly see what Adam had sold. The couch, the television stand, the dining table, even the reading chair where Sadie used to curl up with library books. "You sold all this?" "I had to. You never said it was this bad." Adam rested another box inside the moving truck. "I kept thinking I'd figure something out." Lauren looked at him for a long moment. "You always wait until there's nothing left to say." He didn't argue, because she was right. "I've spent years telling the truth too late," he admitted. "I thought carrying everything myself made me strong. It just made you alone." The words settled between them without anger. For the first time in months, neither of them tried to win. Before leaving, Lauren unfolded a notebook. "I made a schedule: school pickups, doctor appointments, birthdays, expenses. If we're going to do this," she said, "Sadie shouldn't have to guess what comes next." Adam signed the page. "So no more secrets." No more secrets. Sadie ran back into the house one final time. "I found it." She knelt beside the old baseboard heater and reached underneath. When she stood, the little blue home card rested in her hand. "It almost stayed behind." She carefully tucked it into Adam's notebook. "It belongs with the map." Adam swallowed hard. "No," he whispered. "It belongs with us." He walked to the front door carrying the last box. The house behind him was completely empty now. He locked the door, slipped the key beneath the faded welcome mat. The quiet street held almost no traffic. Then, from somewhere around the corner, came the unmistakable sound of a powerful engine rolling slowly toward the curb. A long black Rolls Royce eased to a stop in front of the house. Its polished body reflected the empty windows behind Adam. The rear passenger door began to open. Monica Bellamy stepped onto the sidewalk with the steady confidence of someone accustomed to making difficult decisions. She wore no expensive jewelry that drew attention, only a charcoal coat and practical shoes that suggested she had come to work, not to impress anyone. "Mr. Whitaker," she said warmly, "I'm sorry we found you on a day like this." Adam looked from her to Darnell, then to Gloria Jenkins, who climbed out of the second row carrying a folder against her chest. Another man followed, introducing himself with a polite handshake. "Daniel Cho. I'm Director of Compliance for Bellamy Family Pharmacies." Adam frowned. "I don't understand." "I know," Monica replied. "That's why we're here." She glanced toward the empty moving truck before continuing. "For almost 2 weeks, we've been trying to reach you. Every phone number we had was disconnected. The address on your employment records led us here." Adam quietly answered, "I had to move." For a moment, Monica simply nodded. Then she held out a thin file. "Several of our community clinics recently noticed unusual temperature records from medication deliveries handled through Blue River." Adam's heartbeat quickened. "The reports looked too perfect," Daniel added. "When our pharmacy staff compared them with independent storage logs inside the clinics, the numbers didn't agree." Adam looked at Darnell. Darnell smiled faintly. "I figured they'd eventually ask questions," Monica continued. "We requested Blue River's internal documentation. They provided it." Daniel opened the folder. So did the state investigators. Inside were copies of Adam's handwritten incident report, the photographs of the matching equipment from Riverbend, and the preserved recorder data Darnell had kept. "The recorder Mr. Brooks saved matched your original observations exactly," Daniel said. "The hardware at Riverbend connected the equipment series to multiple distribution routes. And your signed report," Monica added gently, "was the first document that explained why those numbers mattered." Adam stared silently at the papers. "I thought nobody believed me." "They didn't," Monica answered honestly. "Not at first," she smiled. but evidence has a way of waiting for the right people. Gloria stepped forward. I only told Bellamy about the man who reorganized our emergency deliveries. I never mentioned Blue River. Monica nodded. When Gloria described how you rebuilt an entire weekend distribution network using nothing but a paper map and volunteer drivers, I recognized the kind of person we needed to meet. Adam looked confused. You knew me? I knew your work. She folded her hands. Long before this investigation, our clinics had been discussing how experienced logistics people solve problems that software can't. Daniel added, most applicants arrive with polished presentations. You arrived with evidence. The afternoon breeze stirred the blue home card sticking out of Adam's notebook. Monica noticed it, but said nothing. Instead, she asked the question Adam never expected. Would you consider helping us build a transportation safety division that reports problems instead of hiding them? Adam didn't answer immediately. He looked at the empty house, at Sadie, standing quietly beside the moving truck, at Darnell, whose career he had tried to protect. Finally, he looked back at Monica. If I say yes, he paused. What happens to the drivers whose records were destroyed because they refused to lie? No one spoke for several seconds. Then Monica closed the folder. That, she said quietly, is exactly the first question I hoped you would ask. The street fell silent. Even the moving truck seemed to disappear behind the weight of the moment. Most people, Adam thought, would have asked about the salary, or the title, or whether the house they had just lost could somehow be saved. Instead, all he could picture was Darnell sitting across from him months earlier, reading a report that would have blamed him for something he hadn't done. If I work for Bellamy, Adam said, I won't build another system that asks honest people to carry dishonest decisions. Monica's expression softened. I wouldn't have come if that's what we wanted. She invited Adam to visit Bellamy's headquarters the following morning before giving any answer. I don't need a decision today, she said. I need you to see what we're trying to build. The next morning, Adam drove to the Bellamy Distribution Center on the edge of Louisville. The warehouse looked nothing like Blue River. Instead of motivational banners celebrating speed, large digital displays tracked temperature integrity, delayed shipments, and unresolved safety reports. Daniel Cho met him in the lobby. Every delayed shipment costs us money, he admitted as they walked, but every unsafe shipment costs someone else much more. Inside a conference room, Monica spread several documents across the table. We've already begun reviewing our transportation contracts. She looked directly at Adam. But changing vendors isn't enough. She slid a draft policy toward him. I'd like your opinion. Adam expected a presentation. Instead, Monica handed him a pen. For nearly an hour, he read every page. The proposal improved reporting procedures, but one sentence immediately caught his attention. Managers retained final authority to release shipments after reviewing safety concerns. He looked up. This stays. Monica nodded. It does. It shouldn't. Daniel leaned forward. Tell us why. Because the same person being measured on delivery speed can never be the final person deciding whether safety concerns disappear. He wrote a line through the paragraph. There needs to be an independent review. Nobody interrupted. Adam continued marking the document. Drivers need the right to stop a shipment without retaliation. Another note. Temperature records can't be editable from a central server. Another. And safety bonuses can't be tied to delivery speed. Monica watched quietly. You've done this before. Adam shook his head. No. I've just watched what happens when people become afraid to tell the truth. He placed the pen on the table. If these policies don't protect the newest driver on the hardest day of their career, they won't protect anyone. Silence lingered. Finally, Monica smiled. I think we've been interviewing the wrong people. Adam frowned. What do you mean? We've spent months searching for executives. She tapped the marked-up policy. What we actually needed was someone who has already paid the price for doing the right thing. Over the following week, Daniel rewrote the policy line by line. Every recommendation Adam made remained. Drivers would have protected reporting channels. Independent recorder data could never be deleted without audit records. Emergency shipment holds required safety review instead of management approval. Riverbend Family Pantry would receive guaranteed weekend transportation support during severe weather. When Daniel delivered the revised document, Monica signed it without changing a single sentence. "There is one more thing," she said. She handed Adam another envelope. This one carried the seal of the Kentucky Board of Pharmacy. Inside was an official notice. Blue River Cold Transit had been ordered to reopen the investigation into the incident that led to Adam's termination. For the first time in months, his name was no longer standing alone against theirs. The truth had finally found its own voice. There was only one conversation left that Adam knew he could not avoid. 3 weeks later, the Kentucky Board of Pharmacy released the findings of its investigation. Blue River's internal monitoring system had, in fact, replaced missing temperature records with calculated values during multiple equipment failures. The independent recorder Darnell had preserved matched Adam's original report almost line for line. The state ordered Blue River to correct its compliance records, notify affected healthcare partners, and revise its reporting procedures under outside oversight. Curtis Langford resigned before the final report became public. Adam felt no satisfaction when he heard the news. He simply folded the newspaper and set it aside. Winning had never been the point. A few days later, Darnell called. "They cleared our files." "Our records?" "Mine. Elena's." "Yours." For the first time since leaving Blue River, Adam's employment history no longer carried the words "compliance dispute." His name had been returned to him. At Bellamy Family Pharmacies, construction had already begun on a new transportation safety division. Adam accepted Monica's offer, not because it came with a better salary, though it did, but because every policy they had written together was now becoming real. Drivers could stop a shipment without fearing retaliation. Independent temperature records could never be overwritten. Safety reviews answered to compliance, not delivery quotas. Riverbend Family Pantry became a permanent weekend partner whenever storms disrupted local food deliveries. Gloria laughed the first time she saw one of Bellamy's refrigerated vans backing into the loading dock. "I guess you really meant it." Adam smiled. "I've learned promises should be easier to verify than to make." His office overlooked a warehouse much like the one he had left months earlier. The difference wasn't the building, it was what happened when someone raised a concern. People listened. Lauren never asked to come home. Adam never asked her to. Some things deserved a second chance. Others deserved a different future. Instead, they learned something neither of them had understood while they were married. Every Sunday evening they sat down together with Sadie and planned the coming week. School concerts, doctor appointments, homework, birthdays, no hidden bills, no quiet sacrifices, and no conversations postponed until they became emergencies. One spring afternoon, nearly a year after the Rolls Royce stopped outside the empty house, Adam volunteered again at Riverbend. Sadie ran ahead, carrying colored markers. She walked over to the large county map hanging beside the volunteer desk. Without saying anything, she reached into her backpack. The little blue home card had become worn around the edges. She clipped it beside Riverbend's weekly delivery routes. Adam smiled. "I thought that belonged on our old map." She shook her head. "It still does." She looked around the room. Volunteers packed groceries. Drivers loaded coolers. Children laughed while stacking canned food into boxes. Then she looked back at her father. "But home isn't just one place anymore." Adam rested a hand on her shoulder. "No," he said quietly. "It never really was." As they walked outside, the afternoon sun reflected across the parked delivery vans. None of them was a Rolls Royce. That car had never rescued him. It had simply arrived at the moment when years of quiet integrity, painful choices, and one act of kindness finally caught up with him. Adam unlocked his pickup. Before climbing inside, he opened the notebook he still carried every day. The blue home card rested between its pages exactly where Sadie had first tucked it months ago. Only now it meant something entirely different. Home wasn't the house he had lost. It wasn't the job that had fired him. It wasn't even the family he wished he could have held together. Home was the place where truth no longer needed permission to exist. And for the first time in a very long while, Adam knew exactly how to find his way there. Home was the place where truth no longer needed permission to exist. And for the first time in a very long while, Adam knew exactly how to find his way there. When Sadie clipped that little blue home card onto the Riverbend map, it wasn't just a child's craft project anymore. It became proof that the hardest road Adam ever walked didn't lead him back to his old house. It led him to a life where he never had to hide the truth again. If this story teaches us anything, it's that one moment of courage can quietly reshape an entire future. Adam's decision to refuse a lie didn't change his life overnight, but it changed the direction of every life that came after it. The next time you're tempted to stay silent because telling the truth feels too costly, remember what Adam chose instead. You may never see the result right away, but one honest decision today can become someone else's second chance tomorrow. If Adam's journey touched your heart, leave a 1 in the comments. And tell me, have you ever paid a price for doing what you knew was right? I'd truly love to read your story. Until next time, take care of yourself, and I'll see you in another story that just might stay with you long after it ends.